is like no place else.
Wait, you can't recycle the bag? You have to throw it away.
Proper recycling keeps it that way for everyone. Bags tangle in machinery and can bring sorting efforts to a halt.
No bags.
Trash the bags and keep our recycling program moving forward.
No, Mom, look, no plastic bags.
Do your part to keep our recycling bag-free. Trash the tanglers or return them to participating retailers. For more information, visit TampaBayRecycles.org.
Good afternoon. The Hillsborough County Commission on Human Trafficking board meeting is called to order this March 28th, 2024. I want to thank our board members, staff, and public for attending. So, Ms. Monteleone, could you please take the roll and determine if we have a quorum today?
Yes, thank you. Member Molinecki. Member Rice.
Present.
Oh, there you are. Thank you. Chair Klug.
Here.
Member Graves. Member Rose.
Here.
Member Petrolak.
Here.
Commissioner Cepeda, Cameron Cepeda. Commissioner Owen.
Here.
Member Skipper.
Here.
Captain Carlisle.
Here.
Member Glaister.
Okay.
Here.
Chief Cavotier.
Here.
Member Brancato.
Here.
Lieutenant Lee.
Here.
School Board Member Perez. Officer Pascali.
Here.
Corporal Shiver.
Here.
Dr. Espinoza.
Here.
Major Timko.
Here.
Chief Judge Sabella.
Here.
Member Carrata.
Present.
Chair, you have a quorum.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, prior to receiving our subcommittee reports, I'd like to acknowledge and honor Captain Chris Mills for his service on this board. Captain Chris Mills was appointed by the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners, serve as the City of Temple Terrace's representative on this commission back in 2022. And Captain Mills has served the commission with distinction throughout his time on the board and effectively championed the commission throughout his years of service. The Commission on Human Trafficking is losing the services of a dedicated public servant, respected community leader, and strong ambassador of this commission. On behalf of the Commission on Human Trafficking, we express our sincere appreciation and commend Captain Mills for his loyal, dedicated service to the commission. With that, I have a certificate of appreciation from Captain Mills. Next.
Just a couple of words. Definitely not a speech person. I just want to thank everybody. I made a lot of good relationships in my time here. I'm leaving you in good hands with Captain Carlisle. If I'm still around, still be working at Temple Terrace. If anybody needs me, everybody has my email. Go ahead and reach out to me, and I'll still be happy to help. But thank you again. Thank you for the certificate. I really appreciate it, and let's keep up the good work.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to have the subcommittee reports. At the February 26, 2024 Legislative and Judicial Subcommittee meeting, we're fortunate that to have Ms. Dottie Grover-Skipper to be elected as the chairman of the committee, and Public Defender Julie Holt was also elected as the vice chairman. And Ms. Grover-Skipper will actually provide the report today. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And I see on the agenda, we had invited Commissioner Michael Owen to come and speak to us about an issue. And then after Commissioner Owen speaks, then we'll turn it over to Mr. Parkinson to give us an update on the legislative session. Commissioner Owen.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Di. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, it's an honor to be here. First, I think I know most everybody in here, but my name is Commissioner Michael Owen. I'm actually the alternate here. I forgot that till today when I was coming in, but it's an honor to be here. One, the main reason is just because, first, I want to thank you all. You all are people that I really look up to. A lot of folks in this room I even look as mentors. And what you all do, the heart that you have for the most vulnerable, I just first want to say thank you for this service. You know, an elected official, the most important thing we do is it's public safety, right? Whether you're the President of the United States or a school board member, our first rule, our first duty is to keep people safe. Then there's a little subset of that where it's we got to look out for the most vulnerable. We got to look out for our elderly and our children, right? But then I believe there's another subset of that, and that's the people that are victims of things like human trafficking. We have got to fight predators, whether they're victimizing our citizens or people they brought from another country here to our great state. We have got to protect the most vulnerable. And what I'm here today, and I've been speaking with Judge Sabella, thank you for working so closely with me. Julian Holt has been, I met with her, Susie Lopez, a lot of the folks here with the courts too. I think this is a good time, and we're at a point right now where I think we should really start looking at a human trafficking treatment court. And I've already brought this forward at a meeting, and we have been kicking the tires on it. And I think that really now's the time. I understand the challenges of it. A veterans treatment court we have, and you all know the folks that run that courtroom, and that it runs like a top. I mean, that I think is a great example, but different challenges, right? Much different challenges. So, so I am just here today. I'll be your champion for it, or I'll carry the coffee for the one you designate to be the champion. This is something that I think we just have got to get across the finish line, and I think we have the resources to do it. I think we have the best judges in the state of Florida, and again, I think the challenges are probably going to be on the ground level of this. It's going to be for our police and probably our public defender. You know, I think that is where you have to have the appropriate identification. And let me say this too, I am no expert whatsoever. The experts are right here in this room, someone like Dottie that I look to for advice. But I will use every resource that I have. If consider the county your partner in this. If we have to find some funding for it somewhere, Judge, we'll find it. Because there's nothing more important, like I said, than protecting the most vulnerable. The challenges I see, some of the challenges, it's first, you know, case identification and assessment, Judge. That's what we've talked about. How do we identify the victims up front? I think in a veterans treatment court, very easy to do. You know, we can see you got families that are coming behind people that saying, hey, we've got a problem here. We have a veteran and we have an alcohol or drug addiction problem. We need to solve it. We need to give this individual the opportunity. Human trafficking situation, very different, right? You may not know that they're being trafficked. They may be committing a masking crime that is from shoplifting to drugs or the most common prostitution, right? So that, I think, is probably, Rocky, the biggest challenge is up front with identification and with a public defender. I really do. The next is to really address the masking crime situation. Does it just include prostitution or all other types of crimes? You know, I think that is a big challenge as well. And then obviously a trauma-informed courtroom. I keep using the Veterans Treatment Court because Judge Shanti is just so excellent at running it. I do believe that one judge for one docket in this type of scenario is very, very critical and important. And then the other part is mentors. I do think from talking to Dottie and some of the folks here, we've got organizations. I think some of y'all may be in this room. I don't know. But having the mentors to walk with these folks through the process that are victims, I think is going to be very, very critical. And then evaluation of the docket. I look at this as, imagine the data that would come from this for help. Imagine the resources and the individuals that are suffering from a crime. We have a statute in place that will help victims of human trafficking, but let's face it, a lot of the folks will possibly not listen to the public defender and say, if I can get back on the street and go back to the predator, I'll go right back to it. So I think that we'll be able to collect a lot of data to help future trafficked victims from having this resource. So, Judge, I know that we've talked about this in length, and I want to thank you again for your partnership with this. And I'm just here to let you all know that this is something that I'm going to help work on, but I need help. I need the community's help, and most of all, I need your help, because you all are living this every month. You all are the ones at the front line. So anything that you can do, consider me a resource as well. So that's why I'm here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Owen. Does anyone have any questions for Commissioner Owen or for Chief Judge or for Mr. Brancato?
Jennifer Glaister, I have a couple questions. First of all, will the court, which we hope if it comes to fruition, will it also be used as something for potential victims, or would you want only individuals that are specifically identified? And go ahead if you want to answer
Yeah,
that
well,
first.
I think a courtroom is obviously after a crime is committed, so I don't know how a preemptive measure could be taken, Judge, in that matter, but I think this is going to be more reactive to a situation where somebody is arrested and hopefully identified as a human trafficking victim. Again, going back, that's probably the toughest part of this whole, two tough parts, that
Right.
identification and then having them do the treatment, right?
Right, I'm just thinking of prostitution over the age of 18. They're technically not considered, but they certainly have the potential.
Sure.
And may very well be, if we could identify some of those people beforehand and get them help before it goes further, would be absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, oh, I agree
Yeah.
with you. I agree with you. The tough thing, again, is what we're dealing with, and I think it's important to bifurcate this and make sure that we understand what we're talking about. These are folks that are getting arrested for committing a crime. The police up front obviously have all the authority and the power to make those determinations, and if something could stem off from this through the Human Trafficking Treatment Court that does that, absolutely. I think that's a great point.
Okay, and my second question is that, as you know, we had a crossover court for our minors,
Yep.
And that was disillusioned. Will that be on priority to come back as well, or will this include minors, or what is the
Sure.
idea?
And that's something we've talked about exhaustively too, and a great question. Right now, I don't know the answer to that, because the first step for me is what I think from talking to the judge and talking to the other professionals is that, maybe some type of docket to start through the mental health courts is the way to go. So I guess I'm taking kind of baby steps with this. I think eventually, yeah, we've got to address that, right? That's obviously a big hole and a big issue that we have right now. But where we're at right now in this process, I think that's forward-looking, and I think we need to do that. But I think, Dottie, and you may agree with this, where we need to be at first right now is just getting off the runway. And that's kind of what I'm looking to do, and hopefully it will stem into other things. Look, there's other counties that are doing other things, and they may not be doing them exactly like us, but I'm one of those that say, I don't care if another county's not doing it. Let's be the county that the other counties say, look what Hillsborough County's doing, because we're already that way. We're already, as far as our court systems go, somebody that, a courtroom that other jurisdictions look at, so.
Yeah, I would agree, baby steps just to get a docket. And perhaps there could be a presiding judge that could do both minors and adults in the same court, obviously different dockets, but, one judge that could preside over both. So yes, I agree with you. Any other questions? Yes.
Yes, Commissioner Owen, thank you so much for your passion for this. We have been having this conversation since 2015. I'm going to put on my other hat. I'm here as victim to survivors, but I also am the awareness manager for Sale of Freedom. We started title court in Sarasota County, and we're in Manatee County. We have been having this conversation in Hillsborough County for years. Why do we not just do title court? It is working, and the numbers are phenomenal. We know how to put the program together. We have the data behind it, so we can bring in the data, how we collect the data, how we started, basically, a few hours a month. So I would like to see how we can continue that conversation, and more importantly, I believe there has been a team, and I apologize, and my voice is going out, so I apologize for that also, that has gone down and has actually observed title court. Am I correct on that, Judge, or am I incorrect on that?
I'm not sure about that. Let me ask Ms. Justice to comment on that.
Good afternoon. I believe that a representative from the State Attorney's Office and the Public Defender's Office did do a trip down to the 12th Circuit to observe that problem-solving court, but a member of court administration was not present.
Okay, thank you. So I would like to recommend that we do a road trip. And if you'd like for me to set it up, it can be either Sarasota, Manatee, or a combination of, going down 2 separate times to view both of them, observe both of them, because they are a little bit different, because as you said, county to county, dynamics and everything are a little bit different. But again, thank you so much. I hope that this time we're able to actually do it, because there is a dire need in Hillsborough County. So
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah, and thank you for those comments. And I've looked at the Tyler Court closely. Does the Tyler Court probably have everything that we want over here? Maybe not. And that's why I want to be careful of saying, let's duplicate what another jurisdiction does in case, because if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if they handle other masking crimes other than prostitution. Do you know, Dottie, offhand? Or do you know, Ms. Rose? You may know.
It's primarily about prostitution, but of course, as we know, and Judge will
That's the
confirm
majority,
this,
yeah.
right? There is other crimes that are associated
Sure.
with their charges of trafficking, prostitution, et cetera.
Yes.
Just one other thing, and I know this is not totally about court, however, in this conversation about addressing the buyers. Because we can have court all day long, and we can provide services all day long, but what are we doing about the buyers?
Yeah.
Because if we don't address them and we don't get a handle on that, it doesn't matter what else that we are doing in our county, our country, or even internationally.
It's such great points, yeah. Yep, and absolutely, I couldn't agree with you more. One thing I would say with this situation, with what we're dealing with, is I want us to kind of be a little bit laser focused on this. I want us to focus on, again, getting off the ground. I don't want to keep repeating myself, but giving our courts and our amazing judges, and amazing judge right here, I think maybe he could be the one to lead it off first, possibly. No, maybe. But to have somebody that we can pull data from, that say, okay, we have this many, because the data that's out there, I understand there's different arguments on how packed this courtroom could be, right? That's one of the big issues that we've been dealing with. So let's get off the ground on it and listen to our amazing folks in the court system, and that's why I think a docket is the best place to start. And then what comes out of that could be something extremely special. It's special as it is, but my goal is like what you were just alluding to, the frustration of let's get this going. And once we get it going, I think that that will be the example that the other counties will look at.
And then just one last thing with that, I would like to make a suggestion about putting together a focus group, and that focus group to actually be survivors like myself and other survivors that are possibly in this room, and that we have mentors that a lot of folks know in Hillsborough County, but create that focus group because we walked it.
Yeah.
So why not utilize our
Absolutely.
expertise as we're going through the planning process, and who do we hire, et cetera.
No
So
doubt about it.
thank
I
you.
couldn't agree with that more.
Thank you.
Yep, no, thank you.
Well, let me just add that I absolutely agree with all of those things, and you couldn't have picked a better person to carry the torch for this, because I have a great deal of respect for Commissioner Owen, and we have been talking, and we are making progress. So I want to let you know that there's just a lot of details that need to be worked out. So that suggestion of a focus group to have some input, visiting Sarasota County, I'm in. I'll go down there. So I look forward to that. Unfortunately, I took over as Chief Judge 8 months ago, and a lot had been done before I took over, and trips to other jurisdictions I wasn't involved in. But I assure you that you and Commissioner Owen have my attention, and we are making progress, and we are stepping, I believe, in the right direction. But I agree with the progress of, let's crawl before we walk, and walk before we run with it. But I assure you that we are moving in the positive direction.
If I could just say something as well. Whenever you're talking about starting a problem-solving court, you have to look at the hallmarks of all the different problem-solving courts. So they're voluntary, first of all. They're therapeutic. You don't mix levels of risk because there's learned behaviors that you can have during that. So you can't just start a docket. You really have to have the right people enter into it, and it has to be done the right way. So those are, in whatever problem-solving court we have in Hillsborough County, each of them has those hallmarks. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And I know it's crucial to have the right people in place, just like the Veterans Treatment Court, all their mentors or are former military, they're veterans. So that is crucial and a huge piece of this. And we live in a county that has robust anti-trafficking organizations, and as Connie said, we have incredible survivors who are in a healthy place that could really move and drive this forward. So I also love the idea of a focus group, and it, it could be parts of TILA, parts of the veterans, the parts that really work well, because we know the Veterans Treatment Court, Colonel DJ Reyes is going all over the nation helping other entities establish a veteran treatment court. So we know of the similarities and we know of the differences of those two population groups. So I think maybe a combination of the two. And as we are crawling along, we can work out those particular kinks. Judge Sabella, you said progress is being made. I don't want to put you on the spot, but what needs to be, what would be the next step in the progress that has already been taken?
I think that all of the players need to meet, the public defender, the state attorney's office, because they're going to play the most key roles in that situation. And it's been some time since Commissioner O and I have spoken, but I think the next step is for us to have a sit down with all of the major justice partners, including law enforcement, to see how we want to proceed next. So I think that it's time to maybe set up that initial meeting. But I like the idea of focus groups to also have some input as to what's expected or the direction that they would like for us to go in. But I'm prepared to do that.
Fantastic. Do we have a particular target date frame in mind?
I'd like the opportunity to get with Commissioner Owen and work on that, but I'm willing to expedite it. But I think that perhaps the very next step is for Commissioner Owen and I to get back together, and then for us to plan the next meeting with the justice partners, including law enforcement, state attorney, public defender, and we'll see what comes out of that meeting.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think a good thing too, if you're talking about a focus group, would be for maybe this body to make that determination on who that would be. I'd be okay with that. I don't know, Judge, if that's something you'd be okay with. I don't know any better experts than the people that are here right now. So I'd hate to go back to the county and bring future items and go through a rigmarole. So maybe that's something you guys could itemize as an agenda item coming up in the next month.
Yeah, with respect to those issues, and as far as a road trip and a focus group, we do have the benefit of our counsel here, Ms. Deborah Mincy. And I'm sure, sunshine-wise, do we have any issues with that, or is these things we can accomplish by notice, or how can we handle that?
Yeah, a little bit of both. Yeah, sunshine law is definitely implicated with regards to the focus group, the tours, and even the meetings between the judge and you, Commissioner, because you all are members of the same board. So anytime you have those factors, sunshine law is certainly applicable, but I'm here to assist and help set that up however I can, depending on, what's going to be happening and how this is going to play out. Yes.
So in those cases that you notice the public has a right to attend, but you keep minutes, things like that, but you don't have to actually have it on a public forum like this. So they could actually do a separate trip down there, as long as it's noticed the public has a right to attend.
Yes,
okay.
Like with regards to the tour, that's just an example. We could probably just have a meeting there. Okay. So that not only is there a tour, but maybe if there's a location there in Sarasota where there could actually be a meeting, we can just host a meeting at the same time. Mm-hmm. Whatever it is, it would just have to be open to the public in a place where there is open and accessibility by the public, and notice would have to be given to the public as well as minutes. So as long as we meet those three criteria, I think we'll be okay.
Good.
Yeah. Lawyers make everything more difficult. So, Judge, I can say that because I'm a lawyer. So, Judge, I wasn't an alternate when we've been speaking, for the record, as well. So, so I just recently became an alternate. So, so then I will, I guess, coordinate with you down there too for future discussions. Thanks.
I'm just the messenger.
Lourdes, this is Connie. I do have a question about, so the focus group. So when we had a Survivor Advisory Council for Super Bowl, we didn't have to make it public because it was all survivors and we were giving our input. So the same thing for a court. You know, we're going to be sharing some very sensitive private information within that focus group. So I do have a concern about it being a public meeting. Is there any way to work around that?
Well, the Sunshine Law really does not take into consideration sensitivities or sensitive issues. As long as they're members of the same body, being in attendance at these meetings, the Sunshine Law is applicable. But, certainly we can discuss those things and talk about it and try to set it up in such a way. But if they're going to be members of the same body in this focus group, then yes, the public will need to be noticed and invited.
Well, good deal. Well, I appreciate you all. I just want to let you know I'm praying for you all every day. You have a completely capable county commissioner here, Donna Cameron Cepeda, too, as well. So, but I can speak probably for the other commissioners that consider us a partner on these issues. And if you need me, please reach out to me. Okay? Thank you. God bless you all.
Thank you, Commissioner Owen. And thank you for everyone's input as well. So we'll just sit tight, and after the two of y'all meet, then we'll sit tight and progress forward. Okay, thank you. All right,
Yes,
great,
Ms. Munton,
fantastic.
sorry.
I'm
One comment?
sorry, Member Groover Skipper, I just wanted to clarify. So, Ms. Rose, when you talked about the Super Bowl and the NFL and the focus groups that took place, all of those that focus group was not a subcommittee of this Commission on Human Trafficking. So that's why, at that time, we didn't have that concern about the Sunshine Law, because it wasn't a subcommittee of a group appointed by the Board of County Commissioners. So just for the record, I wanted to clarify that.
And also, that group can do fact-finding, but no recommendations. And so if you're making recommendations, and it's on behalf of the organization that the board directed you to do that, you came back with a recommendation, that could be an issue. But you're probably fact-finding and just presenting facts. That's probably it.
And the same would apply, I'm sorry, Chair, and the same would, you're absolutely right, and the same would apply, the same concept, the fact-finding concept would apply, even if they're members of the same board, in this focus group. So if the main body, you all, decide to have this focus group, focus on just certain things and bring back all the recommendations, then that may be a way for us to get around the Sunshine Law. But certainly, whatever it is, I'm happy to help assist.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that wonderful discussion. Appreciate that. And now I want to turn it over to Mr. Parkinson, who will give us an update on the legislative session, this past legislative session, on things that happened that impact human trafficking.
Thank you, Ms. Skipper. You should have before you a summary page that looks like this, and legislative staff analysis of one specific bill, HB 7063. I'm not going to go over everything, just the key bills that were discussed at the last meeting, what happened to them, where they're at now, and the implications for the system. Starting with item number 1, SB 374, that died in the Criminal Justice Committee on March 8th. SB 502 died in the Criminal Justice Committee also on March 8th. The committee substitute for SB 796 actually was laid on table and substituted for HB 7063, which is, we'll talk about that a little further later on this document. But that was actually eventually ordered, engrossed, and enrolled. So that's moving forward. It's waiting a decision by the governor's office. And you'll see that a lot of the pieces of legislation that we talked about at the last meeting, the key components of that were rolled into HB 7063. So a good outcome, I think, for Ms. Skipper and Ms. Rose and Ms. Glaister, who had some really strong support for some of those pieces of legislation. Committee substitute for SB 1590 also died in appropriations on 3/8. SB 1690 died in fiscal policy. SB 1736 died in Criminal Justice Committee, also on March 8. Committee substitute for HB 197, that was the one that had to do with the healthcare practitioners and massage therapy. That was actually ordered enrolled. So again, I know Ms. Skipper serves on another committee that was key to advocating for that particular piece of legislation. HB 1379 died in the Commerce Committee on March 8th. HB 1385, again, that was the one that kind of reframed human trafficking, prostitution, and lewdness. That died in the Criminal Justice Committee, also on March 8th. So, HB 7063, again, that was the one that kind of rolled in a lot of the key components that were being advocated by members of this group. Again, that was engrossed and enrolled and is waiting for a decision by the governor. Some key, and you actually have a copy of it right here, and you don't have to read the whole thing unless you're really bored, but go to page 11 where it says effect of the bill, and you see those key components. And that will change the human trafficking hotline from the national hotline to the state hotline. It requires non-governmental organizations to sign an affidavit attesting that they don't use coercion for labor services. That is also the one that incorporated the prohibition on adult entertainment establishments hiring individuals under 21. Major piece of legislation. Again, not going to go over it line by line, but go to page 11, you'll see some of those other key components. Many of them ported over directly from some of the pieces of legislation that didn't make it. And then the last one was HR 8011, which was the Human Trafficking Awareness Month, which was adopted by publication in January. So naming January Human Trafficking Awareness. So again, a lot of the legislation didn't make it, but some of the key components did. And again, they are awaiting the governor's signature. I checked as of this morning, and there was no action on it. Anything else, Ms. Skipper?
Well, thank you for this great report. Even though we didn't get everything we wanted, I think what we were able to get through was fantastic. So thank you for that very wonderful, thorough report.
You're very welcome, and as always, I just want to recognize our Legislative Affairs Department, Brandon Wagner and his staff, who helped me keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on in Tallahassee.
Great.
They're instrumental to these activities.
Thank you for being here today to report that back. All right, I think that's all we have for the legislative
Thank you.
report.
Okay, also on the same day, on February 22nd, 2024, we had the steering committee meeting, and I was reelected as the chairman, and Public Defender Holt was elected as the vice chairman. So in that meeting, we talked about a number of issues, including the FKQ contract, which we'll have a presentation here shortly. And it's the Don't Buy It Tampa Bay campaign, continuation of that. And some things with respect to that, we looked at the geographic area, maybe focusing on the most impoverished areas of the county, some social media targets, partnering with agencies such as the Port and Visit Tampa Bay, the airport, school district, et cetera, and targeting major events, billboards, et cetera. We'll hear more in a few minutes about that. Also, we talked about education awareness and training options and available funding. Particularly, we discussed signs to look for and how can we help with that, and maybe create cards for the law enforcement officials and others, that these are signs to look for human trafficking, et cetera. Maybe this is a different thing we can do as far as making the public aware. We also discussed the needs of survivors, including medical and dental care and housing. With respect to housing, we discussed the need for rental assistance and also working with landlords. And the landlords may be reluctant to lease to survivors with records, and also the need for more safe houses. And we also further discussed the need for prioritizing funding options for various programs. And that concludes our steering committee. Notes, does anyone have any questions about either of the two committees? Okay, also we have in your packet the minutes from the January 25th, 2024 board meeting. And if you had a chance to review those, if you don't have any questions, I'd like to receive a motion to receive the minutes.
I make a motion to receive.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. All in favor, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay to oppose. Okay, motion carries. Okay, and as I mentioned earlier, we now have a presentation by FKQ. I think Elisa DiBernardo, is she here? Okay, and she's the senior account director with FKQ Advertising, and will present the anti-human trafficking marketing communications campaign.
Thank you, and thank you to the board for having us here today. We kicked off this campaign and developed it in 2020 ahead of the Super Bowl. It did run through 2022, and we took a hiatus in 23, so we're glad to come back and support the committee with the campaign. Just as a reminder, this campaign does support the committee's mission, and it's really designed to help residents and visitors alike to recognize the indicators and learn to report suspected activity. So you'll see the call to action and the creative really drives back to those report lines. Just to take a look at the planning parameters for this year's campaign, and it addresses a couple of the things that you mentioned in the introduction. Our geography, we've really honed in on heavying up in those low-income areas. We do have a number of media, the mass media, TV and radio, that will cover the entire DMA. So we'll have coverage across the DMA, but also be able to kind of heavy up and focus in key areas of the county that we know are important, as well as partnering with or surrounding key venues. The Tampa International Airport did support us in the buy in 2022 with providing some placements near baggage claim, which were really key. We can also coordinate with the Sports Commission to see how we can get around those sports stadiums and event venues. When we did have the large events, we were able to do some mobile advertising around those events. And then, of course, the Port Authority that has in the past been very supportive of being able to run our creative in that venue as well. Not on here, but Hart in the past, because we do buy with the transit, Hart was able to leverage some of their own media on the buses for the campaign as well. So if they're able to do that again this year, that all of that kind of just helps support what we're doing. You'll see the creative campaign here in a couple of slides, but it was really important for us to identify these key kind of filters that the campaign really needed to accomplish, which is, build awareness that this is happening in our area. I think the committee over the past couple of years has really raised the bar and some of that awareness, and we're seeing a lot more in the news about victims, being saved. So we wanted to also be diverse in who we were depicting in the campaign. So you'll see a lot of different layouts with a lot of different types of victims and also different types of trafficking, whether that be sex or labor. Also, just a note here, as we got really involved with the committee, we understood that it's beyond knowing the signs and really understanding that story behind those victims that help people realize what the real environment is for them. And then, as I already mentioned, how to notify authorities was really paramount to this communication. So the campaign dates for this year, we're looking to present a media plan to the subcommittee at their next meeting on the 25th, and then launch the actual campaign on June 1st. We have a kind of a rollover budget similar to 2022 of $95K. That includes both creative development, management, and the actual in-market media. Important thing to note about this money, it's not a lot of money, but what it does is it allows us to make small purchases with our media partners, and then they can provide a lot of bonus weight and PSA weight. So it's really designed for us to negotiate a lot of free media through the kind of little bit of dollars that we exchange via a contract. So now just kind of getting into the campaign itself. As we've already a little bit discussed, it was really the objective to raise awareness around this issue and let people know how to report activity. The strategy was one of unification and really pulling the community together. We wanted to make sure that it was empowering and encouraging for our residents. And, I know it was already mentioned here, how do we address buyers? And that was another kind of factor that we looked at in the campaign, which led to our headline here, which is "Don't Buy It, Tampa Bay." This is kind of a twofold. It's don't buy it maybe more in a literal sense, and also don't buy it as in it's a bit of a con, right? It's not really what you think it is. Some people are being misled. So I'll go ahead and read the ad here on the page. By the time you finish reading this, someone else will become a victim of human trafficking. There's a new victim every 30 seconds. But we can end human trafficking together. Don't buy the lies and exploitation. If you see something, report it. Don't buy at Tampa Bay, and then we have our tip line below. If any of that tip line information has changed, let us know, and we will, of course, update it here. We were really lucky to have Titus O'Neill support the campaign, and this was through the help of the county commissioners as well as Visit Tampa Bay. So let me play the ad.
Every 30 seconds, someone becomes a victim of human trafficking. Abuse victims, runaway children, vulnerable people, or just everyday individuals, trapped by a crime built on lies and exploitation. But we can end it together. Don't buy the lie. Text CTYTIP to 847-411 with anonymous tips, and call 211 for immediate help. Don't buy it, Tampa Bay.
In addition to this great ad that he voluntarily did for us, there were some live interviews and some other live appearances that we were able to pull him in for. That relationship has been a little bit disconnected now with the hiatus of the campaign. So if we did want to, involve him again, we would just want someone from the committee to reach out and make that connection for us once again. So now we'll take a look at the outdoor ads, and you'll see several different headlines here. Human traffickers trick victims by making false promises. Victims of human trafficking are hidden in plain sight. Paying for sex allows human traffickers to exploit their victims. Again, this is a good education for those buyers that may not quite understand what they're getting into or what environments they're being a part of. We did find it important to partner with Uber and Lyft vehicles, knowing that we also had some Uber, training for Uber drivers to understand when this might be occurring in their vehicles. So have it right on the side of the car is a nice reminder. Also, as I mentioned, partnering with HART to have ads on not only bus shelters, but the buses themselves, and these routes can get us into some really specific areas of the county that are really important for us to hit. In addition, depending on where the zip codes were, we were able to run Spanish language in the ads as well, so we do have that translated. Now to take a little bit look at the media strategy. As we talked about, there will be some mass media with our partners and then overlaying in those specific areas. When it comes to social media, the campaign does not have a handle to run from. I think early days we maybe spoke with the county to see if we could run it off their handle. There wasn't quite a desire to do that at the time. So any social media or digital ads we did through our media partners and through their channels. If there's a desire to kind of change how we do that, we can certainly talk about that. Any of those digital ads usually need a place to click into. I know we've sunset the Don't Buy It Tampa Bay website, but our understanding is there is a landing page on the county site that we could take people to, just so that if they're looking for more information, they can find it, whether it be a Polaris site or a more specific county site. So we can kind of get around that website. And then again, really the focus of the paid media is to get free media and get support. And most of our media partners have initiatives that will, they'll be running a number of PSAs, so we will just encourage them to run this message. A little note there at the bottom, of course, we do have a presidential election this coming year, and that can impact that inventory for us to get those PSAs. So it may be that our paid campaign kind of takes us through November, and then we're able to realize a lot more of that free media post that, depending on how the things go in the state. So just to look at this media mix, because we do find it important to be on a number of different channels and really have a robust plan. Mass media with TV, that'd be a spot schedule, as well as incorporating any digital that they could have. And Usually we'll partner with one station group because the money won't go that far. However, all of the stations in the area will get the PSA and a request to play it. So we'll be able to report back all of those impressions to the group. Similarly with radio and outdoor, as we've kind of already looked at those different areas where we could have outdoor and also get some free bonus weight with that. Our print was all bonus, and then, you know, the digital and social where we're able to run that as well. So next steps for us would be to actually develop the tactical media plan with your approval of this strategy that we would go and negotiate with our partners, and then of course prepare the creative assets, and then as we already discussed, that landing page if we wanted for social ads.
Hi, Jennifer Glaser. I have a question. First of all, this is wonderful, and thank you so much for putting all this hard work into this. It's greatly appreciated. And I'm hoping our relationship can continue down the road. And I just wanted to ask, since everything's pretty much been done, if just to kind of put in your ear later on down the road, we're hoping to continue the relationship. We mentioned social media several times. If there could be something involved like a billboard, or what you're the expert, where social media is involved in trafficking children. I love all of this, but it's a lot of it's reactionary, not what you're doing, but basically we as a group basically ask for reactionary things, and you gave it to us, and I appreciate that greatly. We also want to do preventative in the future, which I think is great. And I think the more we get out there, in the word out there to parents, that your child can be trafficked on Instagram, your child can traffic themselves, sadly, on Instagram, that would be great. So this is fantastic. And then if we could just, like I said, this is so fantastic that I hope we continue in the future. If I can just put that in your ear as something that we can add.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Thank you for that. I think within the campaign that you see today, there is likely room for that kind of messaging. Would just be a refresh of kind of a headline or a support line. So let us go ahead and work on that, and we can submit it back when we meet again.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
This is Connie Rose. I just want to say thank you. Thank you. So this is the basic framework, of course, from Super Bowl. So thank you so much for carrying it over. But more importantly, I want to thank you from the Survivors Advisory Council that you listened. And that is so important to all of us. So kudos. Amazing job. Can't wait. Thank you so much.
Yeah, one more thing on Connie's work, too, is that I just do love how you kept it so respectful. We have seen train wrecks in the past of ads with human trafficking victims that were just so exploitative and meant to just scare people. Right. So thank you very much.
Right. There was a very specific intent to not scare folks, and we know that a lot of visitors as well as residents are, are in our market, and we didn't want to do that. It was meant to really unify and empower.
I also want to thank Visit Tampa Bay for their assistance in this, and also our county procurement department for making this happen, and the county commission. Ms. Monteleone, do you want some comments as well? Thanks.
Yes, and it was actually something that Mr. Parkinson pointed out, in that in all the materials, the tip line that you mentioned, I'm not sure where that tip line is answered, and if that tip line is still active. So before we go ahead and publish that number, we'd have to be sure that it is properly working and that the individuals who are answering it are trained and know that this is going to now all of a sudden pick up steam when it is published, so that they're prepared and not surprised. I'd also want to work with all of our law enforcement partners, because if you remember, when the campaign concluded, FKQ is actually applying for an award program for this campaign and was asking about data. And we had a very, very hard time establishing the number of calls coming in, you know, and how the tip line functioned. So it's something that we need to work with law enforcement and the community who is answering these calls and processing these calls. And data is something that the court system has been looking for on every side of this issue, right? So that's just something that I would want before we launch this campaign and publish phone numbers, that we are prepared.
Okay, do you have any more comments?
Yeah, does anybody remember who was manning the tip line during Super Bowl? Connie, do you remember?
I thought it was Tampa Police Department. It was either that or Hillsborough County Sheriff, but I thought it was Tampa
There
Police
were
Department.
two that were published. I think there were different campaigns going on at the same time. So one was with the Tampa Police Department and one was with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. And then there was the national tip line. So we're not, because of the national tip line, we don't have the ability to capture data from that calls going there. But certainly there may be something we can work with Tampa and Hillsborough County to coordinate that better.
It needs to be local.
Right, so
There
if
was-
we're local, we have more ability to gather
Get that
the
data.
information.
Plus, there was another one too, the Human Trafficking Task Force that Chief Holloway in St. Pete was leading during that time. So they had their own tip line. So we need one number, one tip line.
Well, we're not going to be able to tell others to not publish theirs.
Well, correct, correct.
So we'll have to, you know, we'll have there are 4 different phone numbers, I'm guessing. Only 4, hopefully.
But perhaps the task force doesn't have that app anymore since there is no more task force in
So,
St.
yeah,
Pete.
there's a little bit of footwork that needs to be done.
Not to muddy the water, but I think it would also be helpful to review the provisions of HB 7063 after the governor signs it, because part of that is revising hotline numbers to be included in human trafficking awareness signage for those organizations that are required to have the signage. So it might make sense to dovetail it to the legislation.
That Florida number, yes.
And then the other factor is there were actually 5 numbers, because as this group was going through that decision-making process, we had the opportunity to partner with Crime Stoppers of Tampa Bay, who the county has a contract for to provide tip services here in Hillsborough County, and they also have a contract with Pasco. And we were able to get them to focus on a public awareness campaign through Crime Stoppers using Crime Stoppers trust fund dollars. There was a video, there was benches, there was bus buys, and as part of that, they have continued to keep their tip system open to where it actually captures human trafficking related tips. And they subsequently provided me with a quarterly update on how many tips that they received. So we talk about data.
Yeah.
The project that I was involved in, because we had an opportunity to partner, we have data. So just food for thought.
I wanted to ask a question too. I know we've been talking, we've had a presentation on a mural project, and I have some more information too about that we can talk about, but would your organization be willing to partner with another organization who would be doing perhaps 1 or 2 murals in the Hillsborough County? They would have their own funding, but just maybe if they could, maybe it could look like a more uniform campaign instead, you know, I don't know, I'm just thinking about this off the top of my head, but I wanted to make sure that y'all might be open to working with another foundation who might be funding any kind of mural project.
Sure, I mean, the creative campaign is, you know, owned by the county, so any of the elements that we would want to maybe share with that group, whether it be our Don't Buy It Tampa Bay kind of header, that sort of thing, we can certainly work with them on or provide them assets as they need.
Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to thank Mr. DiBernardo for that general plan overview today. We're going to have a more specific media plan at the April 25th subcommittee meeting. So maybe that's the steering committee, and if you're not a member still, please feel free to attend that meeting, and you can attend, and we'd like to get your input on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. We are also very pleased to have a presentation this afternoon by Allison Lucien. She's the project chair of the Rotary Club of Wesley Chapel on the Rotary Club's efforts to raise funds for a therapeutic home for trafficking minor girls. And thank you very much for coming down here for this presentation. Thanks.
Good morning. Mr. Chairman, thank you for inviting me this afternoon. The Rotary Club of Wesley Chapel is working on a project to build a therapeutic home for victims of human trafficking. The Rotary district that I'm part of doesn't include Hillsborough County, but it does include Pasco, Hernando, Citrus, and Pinellas counties. And for the last 3 years at our district conference, we've had speakers focusing on human trafficking awareness. In 2020, Sheriff Alan Wilkett, who many of you know, right, was a speaker there, as well as Laura Hamilton with Bridging Freedom. And after that conference, our club was motivated to help build another home. So we've been working on this for quite a while. Next slide, please. So our vision is to build the Rotary House at the 100-acre campus of Bridging Freedom. It is a long-term and sustainable project and will have significant impact, obviously, on these girls' lives. I'm sure you're all very aware of the need for therapeutic help, rehabilitation, and rooms for these victims, and so that's what we're hoping to provide. It started out as a $500,000 project, and we really kicked it off in November of 2021. Next slide, please. This is actually a picture of one of the homes currently at the Bridging Freedom campus, and you can see back to the left that there's the second home there. Next slide. Bridging Freedom has a secure 100-acre campus located in the Tampa area. I know you're probably familiar with them, but I'll just go through it briefly what they do in case anybody is not. They do accept minor girls from the age of 12 to 17 from anywhere in Florida. So they do serve the whole state. The two homes can currently handle 12 girls, and they don't have vacancies. They are full all the time. The girls are typically there from 12 to 18 months, but their care and their program is customized to each child. So it just depends on how long they need to be there. The first home was built by the Sykes Foundation, and the second home built about the same time was the Lazy Days RV Employee Fund. So everything at Bridging Freedom that is there, including the land, has been donated. They do provide on-site education, counseling, medical treatment, and life skills. A lot of these girls don't have any education at all, and they get them their GED so that they're ready to go out in the world. So with the third home, we'll be able to have 6 more girls taken care of there. But one of the things that happened that we did not expect, and it was a good thing, is that by us paying for the third home, Bridging Freedom is able to finance a 4th home as well as an education center on the campus. So they will be building all 3 structures at the same time. So what that means is that the education center will have classrooms, gathering rooms, and office space. Currently, their corporate offices are off-site, and this will allow them to be on-site along with the therapists and the counselors there. They will also be able to build a 850 square foot arts and recreation building, so they can do various just free time type things. And then they'll be doing some other campus improvements as well. So we've had some significant, I guess, benefit that what we were able to do kind of grew into something even more. Next slide, please. This is tough to see, I apologize. It's shrunk down from a full-size blueprint, but each of the 2 homes that are going to be built include 6 bedrooms with a private bath in each room. So each girl has their own private space, which is clearly very important. It will have a very large living area, kitchen, and then where it says recreation area on the blueprint, that's actually the office for the staff, because there is a staff person in each home 24/7. They have to have continual coverage there. And then the other building that they're going to build is going to be a 5,000 square foot building. It will have 4 classrooms, a large workspace area, and then upstairs they will have 9 offices. So there's going to be a lot going on that campus. Next slide, please. Next slide. Thank you. How we've gotten here is Rotary. I don't know if y'all are familiar with Rotary. I know Lisa is. But we do a lot of fundraisers, so that was our natural thing, is to go do that. We've done 4 golf tournaments, a couple of Kentucky Derby parties, casino night. We just finished a clay shoot. We're getting ready to do another Kentucky Derby party on May 4th. We had some members step up and say, I'll match up to $15,000, and so in 2 days, our club kicked up $15,000, so they matched that, and then somebody else kicked in another, so we raised $40,000 from that. We've worked with different organizations to try to get grants, private organizations primarily, and we've had some help from employers of our Rotarians, as well as from several Rotary clubs. So it's become an area-wide project. Next slide, please. One of the big bonuses to our efforts this year is the Community Foundation of Tampa Bay donated $50,000 to this project. So they felt like this was something that they could really get behind. And it's a good thing for us when I'm talking about it, because people understand that what they do and that they have to really truly vet their projects before they donate. So next slide, please. So far, we have generated just a little over $480,000 in cash and in-kind contributions. Unfortunately, during the past few years, we've had some inflation, so the actual cost of the project went up to about $625,000. So where we are right now is a little under $150,000 to finish. Next slide, please. Permitting is currently underway. Materials we delivered in June, and they'll be starting construction and hope to be completed in the fall. So they're going to actually move forward on this before we finish raising all the money. But we'll keep doing the money. Next slide, please. If there's anybody that you know that you feel might be interested in helping us, whether it's a private organization or an individual, I would truly appreciate that, because we're just trying to finish this as soon as we possibly can. If you know of any organizations that focus on private grants for human trafficking, obviously it's a construction project. Not all grants do those things. They don't do bricks and mortar, some of them, but that any suggestions. Every time I talk to people, I say, just tell me anything. I'll go talk to anybody about it, okay? So next slide, please. Our goal is to finish the home. We said we want to do this in 3 years, and we're at the 2.5-year mark. So our goal is to finish this home very, very quickly. And I'll take any questions if anybody has any.
Hi, Jennifer Glaister. I just want to say thank you so much, and I hope that everyone recognizes here that, yes, she's from Pasco County, yes, she's from Wesley Chapel, but when it comes to human trafficking and minors, this is going to benefit the entire state of Florida.
Yes, ma'am.
Because the number one thing that we normally want to see with placement is that girls are moved out of their area to provide them the best opportunity to move on. So thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. And this location is an unidentified location, so, and that's really important because you don't want the traffickers to have any idea where they might be, so.
Yes, Ms. Glacier, I'm glad you brought that up. At Port Tampa Bay, we made a contribution, and we're not just limited to Hillsborough County. We have a regional impact, and so does this home as well. And it's a very good comment about taking girls, minor girls from Hillsborough, maybe going to Pasco. It's good to get out of their community. So that's why we asked that this presentation be made today. Thank you.
I do know they come from Miami too, so
yes.
They're from everywhere. And DCF has told Bridging Freedom that they'll probably be able to fill these 2 houses within a week. So that says something about the need, right? And I know you all know that.
Okay.
I just wanted to say thank you too. I've known Laura for years and years when she had this dream of doing, this campus for Bridging Freedom, and she kept her nose to the grindstone, and she's got it done, and now she has all this people surrounding her. So thank you for what you do trying to help, because the need is great.
Absolutely.
So
and Laura is an amazing person.
Yes,
she really is.
She is.
Okay, any additional questions or comments? Yeah. Yes.
Porter Tampa Police Department. I was just wondering, is this typically all DCF children, or are they also unattended youth?
I'm not sure what that unattended youth means. I'm not a human, I'm a realtor.
Unattended youth, it's basically children whose parents don't report them as missing, or they don't take care of them anymore.
I gotcha. Okay. I do know that they get, clearly they come from DCF. They also hear from law enforcement. So if law enforcement comes into contact with a child in that situation, it might come from that. They are open to taking whomever needs it, but as far as how they all get there, those are the 2 main reasons that I know of. I'm not entirely sure. Sorry, I'm not an expert in any of this, but I'm pretty good at raising funds, so.
So I have a question, but I can also answer your question. They serve both dependent and delinquent youth. One of my questions had to do with the total number that are being served right now in the existing programs.
Mm-hmm.
If you know that, you might not.
Right now there's 12.
Okay.
They can take 12 at a time, so.
And then the next question is, do you know how many are being served from this circuit, Circuit 13, Hillsborough County?
I do not know anything about who the girls are that are there.
So one of the things that we see on a regular basis is the money coming down from Tallahassee.
Mm-hmm.
So for instance, Bridging Freedom received about $2 million in the last 3 fiscal years. $700,000 in 2021, $700,000 in 21-22, and $700,000 in 22-23. But we don't get to see the charitable giving and fundraising that you represent, that help kind of fill in those gaps. And you're the mortar to their bricks, or vice versa. And it's just inspiring to see everything that you guys do to make sure programs like that can work. But I can tell you, again, Bridging Freedom serves dependent and delinquent youth, and they also serve them, to tie in what Jennifer was talking about, kids across the entire state. Because one of the best practices is not to place kids or adults in safe homes in their own community, because despite our best efforts, traffickers often find where those programs, where those facilities are.
Right.
So you move them into a different circuit. We do the same thing on the adult side. We send them out of the circuit because people won't be able to find them.
Right.
So again, it would be helpful if you can go back to Bridging Freedom and say, hey, about how many Hillsborough youth do you serve in a year? That would be good data for this group to have.
Okay, well, thank you again for your presentation.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you coming here for this.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
I will ask, and since the girls tend to stay 12 to 18 months, how many people from Hillsborough in one given year may change the next year? It might be 6 next year, it might be 1 this year, that kind of thing. So, but I'll see if I can find out and get that back to Lisa.
Absolutely, and through the work of this group and court administration, we know, for instance, that there's typically 18 juveniles that are involved in human trafficking per year.
Okay.
But what we don't know is how many of those end up in Bridging Freedom's
Right,
program.
right, and other places. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks again. Okay, we're getting on towards the end of our agenda today, and we have a staff director's report. So Ms. Melgileone, could you give us a staff report?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have really one item to bring everyone's attention to, and that is membership. We are pleased that the Hillsborough County School District, Ms. Kristen Davis, who is here, I don't know if you want to say a couple of words, but she has agreed to serve as the Hillsborough County School District alternate on this committee, so we're just waiting for her application to come in, be processed, and appear on a BOCC agenda. So I'm excited about that. I did want to let everyone know that if you look at the website and you look at the expiring terms on the website, those dates are not necessarily correct, but they will be corrected very soon by our board clerk. Although I'm the administrator here, it's the board clerk to the BOCC that handles all of the website changes and the membership processing. So that's why it has to come from her office. We recently had our longtime board clerk retire, and I've been working with Glenda Navarro, and she's wonderful. She's just taken the position, so we will get through the updates that need to be made. I will be reaching out to several of you because, as I did, I've already sent Ms. Glaister her previous application because the board clerk has let me know if the previous application that she has on file is correct and none of the information has changed. She can go ahead and use that application to re-up, for lack of a better term, the individuals. Some of you will need letters from your agencies reappointing you as the particular person to serve on this committee, but I'll be reaching out in the next week or two to get that done. We've got 2 with expiration dates of March and 10, 11 with expiration dates that occur in April. So that's all I have based on membership.
Well, thank you. And speaking of that, I'd like to introduce my alternate, Ryan Fierce. If you don't mind standing up. And so, thank you, Ryan. So she was recently approved by the BOCC. Do we have any public comment? And if we don't, do I need to read the statement?
We do have members of the public with us today. None have indicated that they would like to speak, but if you would, now is the time.
Okay.
Seeing none, you do not have to read that
Very
statement.
good. It's
Mr. Chair.
Long statement. We'll make the meeting shorter. Okay. At this time, we open the floor to discuss any old business. Do we have any old business?
Chair Klug, I mentioned the mural project. You know, we had that presentation.
Yes, ma'am.
And I was given information about an organization called the Tampa Foundation. I had not heard of them, but they specifically do murals in Hillsborough County. And I reached out to the executive director. She's actively looking for a location for a mural. And I understand that she can find locations where many of us can't. So her name is Jenny Swenson, I do believe. So anyway, I wanted to see where we are. You know, we have not talked about committing any funds to a mural project. And is that something that this body would be interested in doing? I just wanted to throw that out there before she goes any further, with what she's doing.
Well, we appreciate you doing that. I'm also talking to the Florida Department of Transportation, and they've been very receptive, and they're looking at a location close to the former location for a mural as well. And so they've had a couple questions about what size we're looking at, the dimensions, who will maintain it, et cetera. So we need to get some information back to them, but they've been very cooperative, and they want to help us with that as well. So I think at the next steering committee meeting, we'll bring that up.
Okay.
As far as location, maybe we can have a presentation by FDOT as well as, is it Ms. Swinson or something?
Yes.
And talk about funding and how that would be maintained, et cetera. So it looks like we have some momentum, and appreciate a few meetings ago that we had a presentation about the mural that, put us on notice how important that was to the survivors. I think they said a lot of survivors were actually going there and congregating, and the fact that there were no graffiti, in the mural, and that it was very well respected. So that's something we need to consider, doing in the future. Thanks.
Great. I know she was looking in the Sulphur Springs area and had identified a couple of buildings
Okay.
that are owned by the city, so she was going to reach out to them to see, but.
Good. I
Sulphur
think we could
Springs
do more
area
than
would
one,
be a great
perhaps.
area
Yeah.
as
Yes.
well, yeah.
Very good.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any new business? Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Second? Okay.
Second.
All right. And we'll move for adjourn today. Thank you for attending, and appreciate your patience, listening to all the presentations. We had some very good presentations today, and look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.
Yeah.